Well, hello and welcome to Connecting with the Stars. I'm Mary Edwards and here with the amazing special guest, Joan of Angels. It's great to have you join us today, Joan, to share your amazing story and sprinkle some of your angel dust upon us today.
That's so cute. I'm so glad to be here, Mary.
Oh, good. Well, I'd love to just do a quick introduction of your bio and then let you take off, okay? Joan of Angels here, is also known as Dr. Joan Hangarter, DC, is a channel for angelic energies and is here to heal, inspire, and remind others of their purpose and potentials. She acts as an intuitive guide, oracle, and transformational teacher, and is known for her healing messages, wisdom, and art she channels. She is the host of the Joan of Angels shows, a visionary artist, a doctor of chiropractic, and holds a master's in counseling. Woo-hoo. For over 40 years, she has guided, counseled, and uplifted people from across the world to align their body, mind, and spirit to reclaim their personal power and allow the leader to emerge. She offers transformational coaching, soul awakening sessions, and offers energy healing and medical intuitive guidance. In 2013, she was guided to paint 33 angels in 30 days. Wow. She launched, thus launching her work as an artist and a channel for these divine beings to assist you and us, all of us. So let's welcome Joan with open arms and wings to learn more. So thank you for being here again, and love to hear where your story started, and we can continue on and share art and all your magical gifts that you have.
I love the introduction. It's so wonderful to wake up and hear, all the things that I may have done this life put in that kind of perspective, because I believe we're all born here with a mission and a purpose. And to sort of see it laid out like that and hear it, Mary, I appreciate you so much. So my story goes back to my childhood, my very, very earliest childhood, which was rough, no need to go into it, but it left me hiding out in my closet a lot. I ran away by the age of 3, and I really became very, very shy, became very much of an introvert at a very young age. So I found solace, believe it or not, in just listening, and there was a painting like in front of the head of my bed, and I was nearsighted, so I couldn't actually see things, but it looked to me like the paintings were moving. And I would find myself in the paintings, and I'd be walking up these hills and down, and there'd be someone talking to me, comforting me. And these were random visions that would happen in my worst moments. Or I remember once having a fever and looking at my comforter and seeing beings walking with me. So I had connection, and I'm a Pisces. I had this sense of compassion and empathy. So I knew things ahead of time. I picked up the phone once, and I knew ahead of time it was so and so calling to tell us that her husband had died, and things like that happened to me. But I was very shy and said nothing. I spoke nothing, said nothing. Um, at one point in my life, my mother and brother came and said, Joan, make sure you never become an artist in your life. You can't paint. You need to be a bookkeeper. So I can't say I had any encouragement in any of this, but as I grew up, I had occasional periods where that voice would come. And I want to talk about that voice within, because it's that voice within that, if we can learn to access, can completely guide and change our entire life and lead us on our path. And so that voice, occasionally when I listened, became my salvation. So in my early 20s, I was guided to move to live in a spiritual community in Los Angeles. Knew nothing about spiritual anything, but I arrived in this community and learned how to meditate and chant, and learned about saying Om and all of that, and learned that I went to this workshop, and I said, okay, God, what should I do with my life? And I heard a voice, go to chiropractic school. So I guess that I opened up, because I was so quiet and shy, I was able to hear these voices within. And that is what really gave me my start in everything, because I was already connected. I didn't know who I was connected to. I didn't really know how to consciously access, but I did know that there were times this voice would guide me. And when I heard it, I would listen.
Wow, that's unbelievable. Well, I'm a Pisces too, March 11th, and I have 4 planets in Pisces, and I came out of the box knowing that I had a lot of people around me because I was ignored. I was told not to be an artist or designer, which I've done for 71 years now. And I was alone and isolated, confined in this fancy background. I didn't fit in. My first sentence was, I want to go to the beach now. And I was, I mean, literally, because I didn't want all, it was too noisy. All I knew I loved was nature, and I wondered who all these incredible, this positivity was that was around me. And I know now it was the Pleiadians and the Arcturians and the Syrians, guiding me throughout my life of isolation and confinement. And when I did work at NASA finally for several years doing habitability and human factors, and Dr. Von Clearwater at NASA said, "How do you know about isolation and confinement?" I said, "You have no idea how this is right up my alley because I've been hiding really almost my whole life because of the programs that I've been in. I don't remember any childhood experiences since I went off on a craft at 5 and 6 and 10. So anyway, we have more things in common we can talk about in later times, but continue going. Us Pisces are all about intuition, right? We feel it all. I can hear it all and see it all.
Isn't that funny? And I when you were speaking, I heard this little voice that reminds me when people try to tell me what I can and cannot do, I obviously haven't listened. And so painting became my way. It was so funny. It was like I heard this voice, you're not allowed to speak, you don't paint. And so it took me a lifetime to learn how to allow that to happen. I had a regression the other day, and it was all about how I painted instead of spoke, lost my ability. So isn't that interesting that for us, we use that as a way to know? But so as part of my journey, I'm just kind of looking at where to pick up. Yeah, there's another thing I want to talk to you about, the miraculous. So I always believed in miracles because I was a clumsy child. I always was about to get into trouble or something bad happened, and there was always a divine intervention. So it was as if I had my angels watching over me, even though I didn't understand it, but they kept me from serious issues. But in my fast forward to my chiropractic life and towards the end of my chiropractic career, my confidence, and I started to really feel stressed on the planet and very vulnerable. And I ended up getting injured, and I lost my chiropractic office and I lost everything. And suddenly my kids went from, Land Rover and beautiful home to food bank and nothing. And so in my prayers and in my meditations, because we lost everything, I had taught people in my practice how to change your life, how to change your energy and your vibration. So my kids and I organically came together kind of miraculously, and we started visualizing every night what we wanted to see in our life, what our dreams were. My daughter was 10, my son was 8. And we called ourselves the Miracle Makers Club. And so we formed this group. I wanted to tell that. I somehow thought you would kind of like that. We formed this group every night. My 8 and 10-year-old and myself would come together because they were the only mastermind group I had now, my kids. And they believed that their mother could actually affect change. So they believed in the outcome, even though we were miserable. So we chanted, we owned, and my little one said to me, my daughter looked at me and said, well, Mom, when we recover our life and we have that basketball court and that pool, whatever, can we go around the world and teach other families that they shouldn't, so they don't have to suffer like we did? And that was a prime moment. And in a sense, that's where I launched the Miracle Makers Club. I started to write books on how to have miracles in your life and how to expand and shift your life into the positive, into the miraculous. So I've always really been on that path because honestly, once I reached 28 and I was still alive, I thought it was a miracle that I was still here, and everything turned into a miracle that I was still in that in my life.
Wow. Well, you are so intuitive and wise. I became a single parent with my son and daughter, who are now 32 and 34, when they were 6 and 8. And I grew up in a very wealthy family with way too many homes. We traveled the world, which was great exposure, but I didn't fit in. All I wanted to do was make people feel better. And when I go through all my lifetimes, it's a thread of healing and design, art and design. That's all that's ever mattered. I started painting rocks because I didn't talk, and we grew up in a huge house on Lake Michigan and outside Chicago, with the Lake Michigan behind us. And I would go down there because I didn't want to talk to anybody, and I painted rocks. I have a ton of them in the other room that I still have carried around with me. But when I got basically hit by my husband, and he lost his job. I just got out. I said, here, take the house. The kids and I are moving out. I was terrified because I had never been in a position of, and I was still supporting us anyway. I have forever, which is fine because my kids are wonderful and they're happy and self-sufficient. But we were the three musketeers. And we were the three of us. And I'd sit at the head of the table and say, we can do anything. I want you two to be happy. I want you to be whoever you want to be. And I've watched them like you did with your kids. Lizzie's now global community manager in London of Salesforce.org, the philanthropy and education department, who teaches 40,000 people a day basically how to use Salesforce in the most positive, uplifting way. And my 34-year-old son, Alex, who's a little avatar, is one of the heads of forestry here at the Presidio Trust in San Francisco. He did golf and banking. He was working at a bank. I said, you look miserable, about 7 or 8 years ago. And he said, I thought that's what I was supposed to do. I said, no, quit. Give your notice. Go do your volunteering work at the Presidio, where he has now been for 7 or 8 years, happily planting and growing and having really out of the box experiences. They both are. But anyway, because they said, you were always my rock, Mom, the three musketeers always would survive and always overcome all the hardships. And only one other time, I was so scared, I had $500 in my checking account. I thought for 1 second, I'm going to jump off the Golden Gate Bridge. And I thought, oh, shit, I'm a Pisces, too cold. I can't do that. Too cold. And also, I want my children to thrive. I want to be, it was just a moment of weakness that we all have. But I hear you. No wonder we're talking today about this, because miracles every day, it's a miracle I'm alive. Every day is 1,000 miracles. That's why I've always been positive and always been so grateful for you, for everyone, all my support guides that have been there supporting me and allowing me to do art and design at NASA. And, I worked at big firms. I worked all over the world. I did get the travel growing up, which was unbelievable. I love my parents, and I'm so grateful for both of them. But because my dad was part of the government, had a huge aeronautical aerospace company, he worked with the government in the military, the US government in the military, and NASA from before World War II, whenever NASA started, to the late 1990s. So he was part of secret space. He and Werner von Braun worked for him. I was never told anything of why my father was on the craft with me at age 5 and 6. And then at 10, I went off planet, and I've been going off planet ever since. But so thank you for sharing, because I think we talk about fear and love. We have those two choices every single day. And when I'm sure either one of us goes for a minute, we blink out and get frustrated by all the stuff that's going on the planet now. We remember the gratitude and the love and the energy that we share every day. And you particularly do, because you've been doing this and touching so many people for so long. So anyway, I just had to pop in with that too, because you're really reading my mind here of
Well,
sharing those female stories of learning. I mean, I'm still learning self-love at 71 years old. I'm now woken up the last couple of years because of all this work and doing the book with Barbara and talking to people like you who help inspire me every day to learn more, do more, and just accept all this beauty that we have with Mother Nature here in California and everywhere. All this new renovation and renaissance that we're in right now to help lift others.
right,
So
right,
anyway,
right.
thank you.
Well, I just have to share something. which is very, very interesting. So my daughter is 32 and she lives in London, and she is in advertising, quite advanced soul, quite capable, quite impressive. And I have a son who lives in Petaluma, and also, but the same, 30. So we have kids the same age. We have daughters in London. Both of us were told not to be artists, and both of us have such creativity that had to come out no matter what. And I love that you and your kids also had that same bond. We just called ourselves the Miracle Makers Club because we just knew we needed a miracle in our life. And so we every night we'd come together and ask for that to manifest, and it did. And we did get the house we wanted, the basketball court, the pool, and all of that. And what was interesting was that as we fast forward down the road, it was like 2013, and I came to a crossroad. I kind of had lost the confidence. Oh yeah, and also I had my moment on the Golden Gate Bridge too. But we're not going to talk about my
No, we
angel
don't.
saved me that night. But I had that other moment, and I just said, how do I spread miracles on the planet? What do I do? It's not working. The plan's not working. And I heard a voice. It was Halloween evening, and I heard a voice that said, paint 33 angels in 30 days. I said, what? I don't paint eyes and faces. You must be crazy. And the voice again, paint 33 angels in 30 days. And what did I do? I said, well, what a mess. I was painting oils, 33 canvases, where do you let them dry? Oh God. And that was my response. And then I heard the voice one more time. Now I know from past experience that if the voice goes to the third time and I don't listen, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be pretty. I mean, I had already been told by a psychic that I should have been famous once, and I blew it. So I kind of knew that. So I heard that voice a third time, and I said yes. And I started painting 33 angels in 30 days, Mary. And what I discovered was it completely changed my life. I started to be infused with this whoosh feeling, this feeling of excitement, anticipation, of bliss. And I dived into painting 33 paintings, some with my eyes closed, some with the painting upside down, some with who knew what I was doing. And I still think it's primitive, but the messages the paintings came through with very deep messages of angelic beings and the other realms. So we hung them up in the angel loft, and a book falls off the bookshelf that says, your call for coffee has been heard. I love you. Your call for angelic assistance has been heard. And that began my understanding that as I listened to these voices and the guides, more would be revealed. And that it was only in the listening that I would get the information on how to proceed, because this was otherworldly. This wasn't about you get a job, you send your, this was really a deep dive. And so I began to understand, I began to see wings around people. I began to host events, how to feel the presence of the angelic ones in your body, how to experience miracles every day, how to kind of feel that and connect with them. And so I spent 7 years, I was told to move to the desert by Archangel Gabriel, so that I could hear, because, a lot of spiritual teachers go to the desert because there's silence. The silence is very profound in the desert. And so is the sky. And so is the ability to connect. And so I spent 7 years, I didn't leave my house a lot. I became really sort of more cloistered, and I painted a huge collection of art, angel art, portal art, interdimensional art, beings that came to me that would have messages, and the energy from the art was such that, say, I have a friend, Trisha McCannon, she's a well-known oracle. She came to the house and said, Joni, Krishna's here. Oh my God, did you know Krishna lives here? All the paintings have hold the energy of the different beings that have come through with their messages and their energy. So it was quite a profound experience. And I say was because the second day I moved to the desert, or the third day, I was invited to meet new people who lived out there. And I'm in a very busy coffee shop. And this strange woman across the table, about to take my omelet and eat it, she goes, "What did you say your name was?" And I said, I was trying to say it's Joan Hangarter. And she goes, like, "Say nothing." And then the restaurant went quiet. I heard nothing. Time literally stopped. And she said, "I know who you are. You're Joan of," I thought she was going to say Joan of Arc. She said angels. And I went, phew. I actually said, phew, okay, I could live with Joan of Angels. Because I had always thought I was Joan of Arc my entire life. So that began a 7-year phase of learning. It's one thing to have a new name. It's another to learn to carry the energy of such a profound name and experience. And the energy of that took me a long time to understand and to manage. And I would say that it really wasn't until 2020 when I was telling everyone, well, there's only one Joan of Angels, you can't miss me. I heard a voice that said, well, you were given this name and given this gift because you had agreed to hold that energy frequency of Joan of Arc, Joan of Angels around the world. If you're not going to do it, tell us now, because there's many people waiting.
Wow.
Who will also say yes. And that's what I want everyone to know, Mary. To be one of the chosen ones, we must choose. We must say yes to the call. And when you get that call, it can lead you to your greatest bliss. It drowns out everything else, and it infuses you with that sense of purpose and mission and that sense of calling. If you miss the call, and we all have that ability to just, it's too much, oils, they smell, if we miss that call, it may or may not come around again. Okay? We have activation codes set up in our energy, in our timelines to wake up. But maybe we're doing drugs. Maybe we're doing bad relationships. Maybe we're doing veils of forgetfulness. And we say to ourselves, not now. And that not now could be not this life. It could be, it will come around again, but we don't know when.
Right.
And I did learn that. I've learned that painful lesson when I went up to that psychic. He was a fortune teller, and he read my palm, and he just looked at me and he said, Joan, you were supposed to be famous. And then he said, and you blew it. In other words, you didn't listen. You didn't listen. The activation moments came, and you were too busy being lost in the 3D world.
Well, you weren't ready.
That's
You weren't
right.
ready. We pick and choose when we're ready, when the time is right, when we've gone through whatever lessons and timing that we needed to, that we were programmed for, right?
Right. Sometimes we have to be stripped bare and say, I have no choice now, and face our fear. So a few months, about a year or two ago, I knew after 5 years that it was time for me to leave the desert. I really didn't know where to go. Okay. Had no idea. But I knew I had to leave. Still don't know where to go. But good news is that Spirit's been taking care of me. What's my next step? I'm now working with Neil on Portal to Ascension and helping with productions and traveling around the world, actually fulfilling my soul mission of healing and inspiring millions of people, because it happened organically. I said, well, I don't know where to go and what my next steps are. And I began to listen to another call, the next level of where I'm going. And that's how Spirit angels communicate with us. They don't always lay out the whole picture, Mary, because sometimes we'd run. Sometimes we'd go, oh, you know,
I was a runner.
and
I did run, and now I'm
right?
up to it. Well, I heard too, as a young child, don't do art and design, which I've done forever. I've been doing wellness interiors all over the globe. I needed to do what I do to really. I went through the back door to create spaces that connected people, their mind, body, and spirit, anchored them to home. So I've been creating home because I've lived in Boulder, I've lived in Europe, I've lived in New Zealand. I've been searching for my own home, but every time that I got a call, it was like, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. But anyway, a psychic in Boulder, when I first went to the University of Colorado to get my BFA, which I did, I was there for 10 years. And the first astrologer in 1969 that I had said, "You're a baby mama, and you are a wanderer and a nester. You don't know who you are, do you? You're a baby mama, and you're a star seed, and you're going to wake up at 70." And I went, "I'll be gone by 70. That's too old." Then I go have my rug business in India 30 years ago for 10 years that I designed rugs and manufactured in India and Hong Kong and the Philippines. And because I wanted to, that's what I call myself, design for the masses. I wanted everybody to have beautiful rugs and beautiful art, because I had art going along with it and ceramics. I wanted to heal the world. And my friends would say, "Are you crazy?" And I go, "I think so." But anyway, I did that. And then I went to, 5 or 6 other psychics, and they said, "You don't know who you are yet, do you?" And they go, "Wow, you're going to wake up at 70." And I said, again, I keep hearing everywhere I've gone, and I just turned 71. And during COVID, I went back to art. The last 10 years, I was lost, not knowing what I was going to do. I'm going to move partly out of San Francisco now, but I don't know where to go. I was in Sedona last weekend. I was at the conference in July up in Mount Shasta. I want to just I was surrendered finally after being a scaredy cat control freak for my kids, paying the bills, doing that wonderful design that launched me into doing now off-planet work that I've been doing since I was 10. But inside habitats for all the planets and beyond. But I'm just starting to talk about now. But I've been told now by 5 or 6 people that I was supposed to wake up like last year. And I feel like I did. And anyways,
Yeah.
it is time release, and I finally accept that, because they said your work isn't beautiful, your color and your sense and your art and your design. And we worked for Disney at firms, and we did Faneuil Hall, we did Madison Square Garden. I worked on a 30,000-acre hotel in China. I did a $30 million villa in Italy. I've worked for homeless and vets, and I've always taught art on the side to kids. But anyway, I always knew, I finally just totally surrendered. I've always really just done what I wanted to do anyway. But my guides have been grooming me and helping support me and my love and my self-confidence, and training me and helping me all the way along. And I've always known that, but now I've really stepped into it the last few years. So it is incredible to, even when we're old, we can still wake up
Oh,
and have patience. The Palladians always say, 15 years ago, I'd hear this little thing in my head, "Write the book now." I said, "I don't know anything yet. I don't, and I said, "I will when I'm ready." That was going to be Mary's Space Odyssey or something 50 years ago. And then at 15 years ago, and I said, "Well, no." And then when I met Barbara, and I thought her regressions and my story of never being talked to my whole life by my rocket scientist dad, who I loved, and I've been talking to him in the ether. He passed about 10 years ago. And I said, "Why didn't you ever talk to me?" He said, "Duty, honor, loyalty." He said, "I was part of the US government. I was told to keep my trap shut." He said, "When I was with Werner von Braun in 1951 in Area 51, I was 32 years old." He said, "I was with Einstein at Princeton." He said, "All my whole," and then he worked on the Manhattan Project with him later. He's been doing heavy rocketry and all these things. So I was part of these programs. That's partly why I don't have a memory. A lot of them are gone now, thank God. But I'm still trying to remember my life. But I've been moving along happily, privately in my own little cocoon, and now coming out just saying, if I can do it, you can do it too. And we are going to keep learning. And I can't validate some of these weird things I know, but I know them. And my guides help me with that. And it's in my art, and it's in my design, and it's in the love that I share every day in my little, because we all play our part. So anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just was sharing that it's all timing. And thank God we're all here right now with this moment. on the planet to all play our part and to help lift the frequency as much as we can in whatever we do.
So, you get to a very interesting point. A lot of the work that I do is soul mission, awakening soul mission activation. Many people know that they have something, there's something missing, there's something magnificent and miraculous that I'm supposed to be doing, but they can't access it, or they're trapped in a life that's really frustrating. And so the work that I've stepped into over the last 10 years since I became Joan of Angels in particular, I call it soul awakening sessions. I help you start to remember. And I guess, they've kind of aborted that word remember, because we're stirring up ancient memories. We're stirring up little symbols that may come to us. We're stirring up an awareness that we have gifts that aren't like everyone else's. We become aware of our uniqueness. And as we become aware of that, we can understand that we have a unique expression and a unique mission that's different from everyone else. You weren't weird, Mary. You were very carefully genetically engineered, actually, to be a certain way and to perform certain tasks and duties here on the planet. You had a soul contract before you got here, or you wouldn't have been sent down here. And you in particular had a difficult soul contract because you were an interface between the government and humanity, these extraterrestrial beings, and humanity, but you had a soul contract that was quite unique and quite part of your soul expression, which could have made you psychotic or crazy if you didn't have moments of insight or clarity, or even your psychics that said to you, you will have that. I'm creating a new course actually called Soul Mission Activation. And it's both a class and a kind of a one-on-one also, but the class I was writing it this morning, that's why it's on my mind so much. But we get distracted in the game of life, but we have a soul contract. And when we came down here, our soul was carefully screened, tested, challenged to make sure it could handle coming into this 3D body form, which is quite difficult in a lot of ways to adapt to the environment here, which isn't really a healthy environment for souls like ours. So we had to come down here. The rules changed. We were forgetful. We were with people who didn't actually remember who we were, acting out their drama and keeping us from remembering. And then we're supposed to wake up. So it's a tricky situation. It's easy to get lost. The goal is that the truth is we all get lost. And this art of remembering is quite engaging. So now I help people remember and access their gifts and their talents and the skills that they have forgotten, including telepathy, including, their clairvoyance and their clairsentience and those hidden abilities, and then including the real skills that they have on this physical planet. And once we anchor that in, well, now I go the next step, because I realize I am nonverbal. Many of my past life memories, I have no tongue. I spoke to the gods many lifetimes, and that was forbidden, to speak to the gods. Your priest would be the only one who could, the Pope or your king. So I lost my tongue, I lost my voice, I lost it many times because I couldn't be stopped. So this lifetime, I had a very, very challenging lifetime, so I could learn again to speak my truth. And so we all have these lessons, that's my point. So now what I do is I take those soul activation sessions, or your soul mission activation, a step further. It's not up on my website, but if anyone's interested, I'm creating them now. But and I do these images come through of your higher self, what your higher self actually looks like in action and aligned with why you're here, so that you actually have a physical representation and you can't forget. And that's why my guides told me that they had me painting angels so that people could see that physical representation, have that energy around you to calm, to bring you calm, to bring you wisdom and healing, and then and not forget.
Oh,
So
that's beautiful because people, you're right, there's such a remembering. I mean, I've been spending all this past year remembering, and I've gone back to my past lives of 94 generations of space and understanding now after talking to my dad probably 10 or 15 times this year through somebody because I can't access that yet. I'm getting closer to that. I don't want to do that. But he just said, I said, why me, Dad? And I said, I know I was the boy in the family to carry this on. I know you were on the craft with me at age 5 to hold my hand, to launch me, to help with the other Pleiadians, Arcturians, people, the guides, to help groom me for this. And I said, my focus has been art and design forever. I stayed on track. I never have deterred from my track. BFA, interior design, architecture school, sustainability school, art on the side for kids. I taught college at the academy of our college. I'm teaching mental health care professionals now. I taught a class the other day because everybody's pretty stressed out because everyone's trying to find out what their purpose is. And I'm finally just waking up going, I know that this all made sense and that this was part of the program. And I'm just an impatient person, but I've always stayed very focused. I'm not social. I've just always been a real worker. And when my dad validated me about a month ago on talking to him, I said, why me? And he said, Mary, you know why. You've been groomed for this.
right.
He said, my brothers and my father were rocket scientists. You are the one that was wired for this like me with the psychism. So that's and my kids are doing what they do and we're all doing what we're doing. But sometimes it happens later. And so we have to try to be patient. And I can't wait for people to call you and email you in a few minutes when you give your information to help find their purpose, because it seems like that's what everybody wants, to get it more crystal clear to how we can help be the most effective at this moment of time.
You're right. I call it soul mission activation now.
That's
Or I have soul awakening sessions, but the new one with the art is going to be soul mission activations, because it's time to even get beyond the doubt. So to get beyond the why me, and to get to the fact that I was actually perfectly, I want you to remember something. When you were up in those other realms, choosing to come in between your soul contract and to do this, that you were screened, you were challenged, and you had a soul contract, a soul plan, literally like on a clipboard. And it had all the skills that you came down here with, that you were going to spend your lifetime grooming and building up. You are the only, now here's what I want everyone to know. You're the only one who could do what you can do. But each and every one of us is actually the only one who's perfectly equipped to do your soul mission. And your soul mission, by the way, could be very simple. I was ordained in the movement of spiritual inner awareness in my 20s, and my ministry was to just hold the light. That's it. I was to go places, and wherever I went, I was to hold the light. Well, I want you to know something. I fell apart. I was tortured by this. It was like, what do you mean I'm just supposed to go and be me and hold the light? Are you crazy? How come this person's supposed to teach classes and that one is supposed to hold seminars, and all I to do is just be in one place holding the light? I actually had to leave after that because I could barely cope with this concept of just hold that light. But I will tell you that all of our major mission, even if we don't have this huge one of the kinds of things you've done, is to hold the light and hold steady, and to hold steady for the times that are coming, and to hold steady in the knowledge that this too shall pass, and that we were born for this. We were born to be here now during these times, this grand initiation that began in 2020, and moving forward, we were born to be here. And because we were born to be here, we also have the more chances of success than any other time in the history of mankind in ascending and in spiritually awakening, not just personally, but collectively. And so we have so much support around us to do what we came here to do. And we're all unique, is what I mean to say, but we all have that one thing in common of service to others in a way that supports each person's optimum growth. I've had experiences on ships and with ETs, not just with angelic ones. So I know that there's an interface between the two. I found myself on ship over Baja, where I used to live, and there were 7 little ships and a mother ship, and I was on the podium, and my group was all asleep except I'm on the podium and one person asleep in the chair in front of me, and I'm tuning up their antenna that connects them to the mothership. And my instructions were, well, you agreed not one soul shall be lost. And I go, what? 7.5. They said, you agreed not to leave until every soul has had their vibratory frequency uplifted. And I said, oh my God, 8 billion souls. Are you kidding? And they sent help. Okay, but we have those connections which are here to really help guide us.
Right, and
as well.
it is a miracle. And people say, well, we've never heard of anybody that's gone off planet in subsurface environments since I was 10 years old. I mean, I remember getting stats put in my brain when I was 10, and then we went off to Jupiter and Mars and Pluto. And, I've been unpacking all of this my whole life. I was at there were a couple beings here last week saying, I said, who's here? Because I can't see, I smell things, I feel things. So I called my friend. I said there were 2 new people, not that just the Pleiadians or Arcturians, but there was a big like blue blob. And he said, "Oh, that's one of the." Anyway, another being who said that he wanted to come check out my interior because I just went to an asteroid way past Jupiter last week or 10 days ago to help them create their new interior, the habitat on their planet, on the edge of inside their asteroid. And he was checking out my art. So I was talking to my friend, I said, what did they like? And they said, well, we really like your clean white walls, your colorful art, which is all over here. And it's not cluttered. And I said, well, being so dyslexic, ADD, PSTD, all the things that I have, I'm so hypersensitive. I said, that's why we're here to help you. That's why I've been groomed to do this work on planet, had to keep doing it. And then also I've been going off planet for these decades to help. And, they keep saying, well, you're helping us so much creating clean, super environments from what your DNA was, what your skill set is to bring art, weave art, aesthetics, design, careful communication between the different beings that I speak with and the humans that are the teams working, creating these environments. I've had a real estate license.
Right.
40 years of development. So I have been doing, and they said you're going to really help when ETs come here more. That's why I want to do another book, maybe with you for children, to really condition kids, and why I asked Barbara to work on that ET Friends in Space book. We want to prepare our children and condition them so they don't freak out if it's so scary, to be conditioned more. I know a lot of you and everyone is doing it, but focus on them, because the parents buy the books. Do a creative art book to say this is the positive light that you can share and learn. Yeah. Anyway.
It's all in the terms and the wording too. I wouldn't use words like condition or groom because they have that really weird connotation.
Well, aim and guide.
But what I would say is that, I would love to help children begin to listen and pay attention to the messages they're getting and raise their vibratory frequency, because that's why you and I are here, Mary. That's part of our work. And I think that the people listening to this, also need to know that you too have your own abilities and your own gifts. And as you begin to identify them, like Mary has all her life, she's been led towards these very interesting things. You're very, very unique. You remind me of the mantis tribes and the insectoid tribes, which are really good at builders. They're the master builders. They know how to connect. They're the ones who would build tinker toys in the old days and who can manifest that. That's not in my repertoire. I don't do those things. It would never even dawn on me to do that. And that's the beauty of humanity, is that each of us is perfectly equipped with exactly the skills we we came down here for when we volunteered to be here on this crazy planet and help lift it up into its higher frequencies. And we were assured of success this time, Mary. So it's, I was assured that I wasn't going to lose my tongue or, lose my voice. And many people who had lost their lives because they spoke truth in the olden days have been also having their throat chakras open now. So
Well, and in my past lives, the 6 or 7 of them, but one was I was Atlantis. I was a female doctor using healing things. I was an architect at the pyramids who was murdered at 29 because they didn't want anybody to tell the secrets. Well, I wouldn't tell the secrets. I was a good witch during Salem. My dad was on the council. I was nixed. So, I've been trying to get my voice. I think that's why I've worn scarves my whole life around my neck, like, oh my God. And now I'm sharing all this because I want others to know this is the beauty of why we are here in this Renaissance at this refresh time of, it's like the 60s. I was on the cover of Newsweek, Goodbye to the 60s, fighting the Vietnam War. But art is the most artistic expression for self-expression, and that's why we want others to, because I didn't talk either. Now I talk a lot because I want to share my story. But my rocks and your art and my art that I have on my walls that I'm starting to actually sell a bunch of with crystals and all the things that I put into my art, and that beautiful piece of art behind you is just glorious. But this is all part of this beautiful movie and plan we are part of. And I've stepped totally into it. People say, well, can't you come do my house anymore? I said, no, I'm sort of in this other world now that I was
right,
born.
I'm doing my destiny,
I'm doing
right?
my destiny
Yeah.
right now, and I think this is why I'm talking to you. I just love your story, your energy, and art is back. Art never went away. Look at the first drawings when I took art history, my first class. I saw an ET, a UFO up in Michelangelo's painting, and I went, validation, keep going. I mean, all along the way, if I had, just listened a little bit more, but I've been doing it forever, carefully and with guidance and with support from our friends. And you are magical and you are unbelievable. What a beautiful soul you are here. So, do you have any parting thoughts you'd like to share? And please give everyone here your email or your website that they can share with you, connect with
You
you.
know, I appreciate that so much. joanofangels.com, by the way, everything Joan of Angels. So that makes it so simple. I want to share the following for all of us. We're in tricky times. 2020 began a global shift and a global kind of a descent into some kind of chaos, into our grand initiation, which is the dark night of the soul for many people, for a planet as a collective where we're reshifting, reawakening, reemerging. And so the most important thing is to understand that you were born to be in these times. It doesn't matter so much what you see around you. It could be chaotic, it may be peaceful. I don't know how the transformation and shift is going to happen, but you were born for these times. You were born specifically because you have the skills, you have those hidden gifts, you have that soul call to be here to assist humanity in this great awakening and yourself and your family and friends. And that is the most important thing you can do during these times, is to remember, Joan said I was born for this. Okay, I was born for this. I will thrive. I will manage it. I will be able to do and understand and support and hold my light steady and not descend into that 3D chaos, which could happen as we transition into the new earth. So I like to remind people that you have everything you need to do you. You have the skills and talents. You can reach out if you need support, because everyone does sort of need a little support here and there on this journey. But remember, you were born for this. You were born for this. We were all born collectively to be here now during this most amazing time, or we would have been one of the ones who left during the pandemic. But we didn't. We chose to stay. And we chose, I teach every Monday night a class on Miracle. It's called Miracle Monday. It's on YouTube. It's 5 p.m. Pacific. And every week we look at how we can hold that energy of the miraculous no matter what happens around us. So some weeks it's healings and some weeks it's energy work. And I've been doing it for years.
Oh, well, oh my God, you are an angel, an earth angel, and this has just been unbelievable. You blow my mind, and I can't wait to have you back on. And we're going to spend a whole hour on your art because art is heart and art is self expression. And it's just been beautiful spending this time with you. Thank you for igniting me and all my multisensory energy here today. So I love you and I thank you for your great wisdom and knowledge and kindness here today.
Thank you so much, Mary. I just think you're so beautiful and courageous. And, you know, you took so many interesting things. I can't wait to kind of pick your brain and feel into it. But I love that you're coming out now and sharing who you are.
Good. Well, thank you. And get in touch with Joan of Angels to, manifest your life purpose now too. So anyway, till we see you again, till next time. Thank
Thanks so
you.
much, love.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Bye.